Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the School on Wheels online workshop. For the next hour, we'll be learning about college planning, a positive future within reach. My name is Natasha Baez. I'm the Education and Training Coordinator for School on Wheels. I'm happy to have with me tonight Garrett Clancy, who works as a college counselor and also is a School on Wheels tutor. Garrett will be presenting some background information on college admissions and tips and strategies for students at any age. The last part of the hour will be dedicated to answering your questions. For purposes of sound quality, all participants are currently muted. You have the ability to ask questions using the questions pane on the right-hand side. So simply type in your question at any time and hit send, and we'll answer them as we go along or at the end of the broadcast. If we don't get to your question, please feel free to email it to myself or your regional coordinator after the workshop, or if another question pops into your head at that time, go ahead and email that. So you've joined today's workshop listening through your computer speaker system by default. If you have a pair of headphones, I suggest you use them to hear the audio a little bit more clearly. At this time, I'll turn it over to Garrett, and thanks so much for being here. You have the experience of being a School on Wheels tutor and definitely a lot of college counseling experience, so it's really great to have you to help our tutors.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, and welcome everybody. So we're going to follow through with a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm going to talk over that and probably tell some stories along the way about my experiences. I was a college counselor at a private high school on the west side, but those students have some of the same issues as all students who are applying to colleges in these days do, which is that the atmosphere is ultra competitive, and it's more difficult with each passing year for even the best students to get into colleges that a couple years ago they would have surely gotten into. So it's an anxious environment for many students who know that they want to go to college and who know how to go about doing that. And I know that we work with students who may not know anything about their options, their college options, their educational options, even for the next year, let alone after high school. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the climate as it exists right now, and then what you as a tutor can do and when. It's never too early to start preparing for college, both academically and logistically. Then I'm also going to talk about community college. We happen to live in really the premier state for community college as a viable option to a better future. Not only because California has the least expensive community college tuition, it averages $46 a unit right now, but it's really set up for students to transfer to a four-year school. So no matter what your student's age or grade level, he or she can begin planning and preparing to make him or herself more competitive in an already hyper-competitive college admissions arena, which I mentioned. And for four-year college isn't part of their future plans, goals, there are many more options. Now, it may be that a student doesn't have a plan to go to college because he or she doesn't know anything about the options, or has been told that it's just not an option because of financial instability, and we're going to dispel some of those myths tonight. Right, quick quiz. And some of you may be college students right now or have recently graduated, and you might still be surprised at some of these answers. So the first quiz, number one, UCLA had how many applications for its freshman class this year? And so the freshman class is in the fall will be about 5,400 students. How many applications do you think they got this year?
I'll give them a minute. A few people voted.
All right. So we'll give you a minute to vote on that.
So it said, So 13% said 15,233, 25% said 28,000, and 63% of our viewers said 80,472. So what is it, Garrett?
The answer is C. And it sounds crazy, but that is actually the answer. I'll jump ahead to the next slide to show you. It's the most applied to school in the world. The #1 most applied to school in the world. Now, when I started as a college counselor 2 years ago, there were 61,000 applications. Then it went up to 72, and last year it was 80 and some change. It's insane how many students applied for that a freshman class that only has 5,400 students. So we had students this year at my school who were equally strong, if not stronger, than students the year before who had gotten into UCLA who did not get into UCLA this year. Now I'll explain later why. I'm not trying to fight anybody with these statistics, but it's just the reality of the climate. Now if we go back, there's a second question on the quick quiz, and that's true or false, college graduates make more money over a lifetime than those with just a high school diploma. You can probably do this in 30 seconds.
Okay. Most people will do it, I think. All right, what do we got here? Oh, they weren't tricked. 100% said true.
You weren't tricked. Okay, well, good. Yeah, and here's a little chart that Natasha found for us. Yeah, and it's not necessarily college graduates, but those with at least some college education earn more over a lifetime than those with none. Also, they tend to stay employed. If you look at this chart here, students with college and college degrees happen to stay more employed. And in this frightening economic climate, that's, you know, I'm sure everybody's heard someone say, you can't get a job with without at least a bachelor's degree, or now I've been hearing, you know, if you don't have a master's degree, you can't get a decent job, whatever that means. But the fact of the matter is, it's good to be educated, and employers want, you know, educated employees, and not just that they want them. With so many folks vying for the same job, those who have more education are probably going to be the best candidates. And certainly President Obama has talked about the need to have a more educated working class. Okay. So what does this mean? My student probably won't get into UCLA, and yet he/she needs college in order to ensure a better future. It sounds like a catch-22. Well, first of all, I'm just using UCLA as an example school. It's not the only school in the world. There are 4,000 colleges in America, roughly. But because the state of California, not only with the community college system, but with the public education, post-secondary education system, the UC system and the Cal State system, 23 campuses of the Cal State system, because those tuitions are essentially the least expensive of the public schools throughout America, it stands to reason that students who are already financially challenged are probably going to look to attending those type of schools because, you know, they're more viable for them. There's stuff that we can do now. It doesn't matter what age you're tutoring, that you can help students reach all of their academic goals, and again, encourage them to have goals if they don't already. They may not have any because they may have parents that haven't attended college or don't feel that it's necessary for their kids to. But if we plant a seed in their minds, then, you know, all things are possible. Also, we can guide them into becoming more competitive because, you know, when I was going to school, I'm not going to say when that was, but it was a while back. It wasn't very difficult to get into any college if you were just a decent student. Yeah, the SAT was around, and, you know, you didn't have to do particularly well to get into a decent college. But now you've got to do so much. It's pretty frightening. This is what college admissions and all college admissions committees look for essentially in order of importance. Number one, grades. Yeah, they're really important, all important. Two, course selection. When college counselors send information to a school at which their students are applying, they send something called the school profile. And in that school profile is all the information about the school, what the median SAT scores are for their students, and also the course offerings that they have. So now, the private school at which I taught before I was a college counselor, we offer 7 AP courses. Harvard Westlake offers like 30, but most public high schools offer a few. And what schools want to see, especially a school like UCLA, is if your school offers 7, they want to see that you took all 7 and that you did well in all 7 of those courses. That's a lot of pressure. Puts a lot of pressure on students. The students that we're tutoring may not have the advantage, if you want to call it that, of being able to take those more challenging courses, but that doesn't matter. Whatever their situation is, if it's a situation like at Pacific Lodge where I was tutoring, they have a couple of in-house teachers. Whatever the course offerings there are, if the students are taking the most challenging level courses there, it's the same thing. Colleges are going to judge students by what their high schools offer. Number 3, standardized test scores. Even though with each passing year, more and more schools are saying that they're not going to look at the SAT, the most competitive schools still do. And there's also something called the ACT. Maybe some of you took that test. That's a good test to have specifically female students take. Female students tend to do better on the ACT. Educational studies have shown. Number 4. Now, it's ranked number 4 because this is what schools rank the personal essay as, but depending on what the essay comprises, it can end up being the most important thing in a student's application. And we're going to talk more about that as we move forward. This is where the students that we tutor can gain an edge in the college admissions process. And we'll talk about that soon. Number 5, extracurricular volunteer activities. They're important, very important. I once was eating sushi at a restaurant, and I was sitting next to a mother and her daughter. I guess her daughter was maybe 15 or 16. And I was very impressed with what the daughter was saying. This was several years ago, what the daughter was saying about how she was going to start with her friends a nonprofit, and they were going to somehow work out a program to feed kids in certain parts of Africa. I forget the country she mentioned. I was very, very impressed with how she was presenting this to her mother. And then she said, because that's how you get into Yale, Mom. You have to, found a nonprofit. And so, it used to be in my day, if you played a couple of sports and maybe you were on the chess club, that was great. That was all you needed. Now, whatever a student can do will help make him or her more competitive. But schools want to see commitment. They would rather see you as a student involved in 2 activities that you've done for 2 or 3 years consecutively, as opposed to 17 different things that you volunteer, a couple hours here, a couple hours there. Outside of school activities that are volunteer, Habitat for Humanity, School on Wheels, those rank very highly with admissions committees. They want to see that community service commitment. And then finally, teacher, other recommendations. Some of our students may not get the chance to build much of a relationship with teachers, but other folks in the community, even tutors, if a tutor works with a student for a long period of time, that tutor can write a recommendation. Anyway, so that's just and for a lot of you, especially if you're still in college or you're recently graduated, you're gonna know all this information, I would assume. Okay, so disadvantage and advantage. Quick quiz. Number 2. True or false? Being a disadvantaged student, and by that I mean, the students that we tutor, can actually work in your favor when applying to college. What do we think about that?
Oh, they're on to it again.
You're onto it. Good. Well, that's good because
we have smart tutors.
right. Right. So it seems like an obvious answer, but the getting to that cracking that secret of how a student can use his or her disadvantage to an advantage. We'll talk a little bit more about that in depth. Your struggles can work in your favor. It's true. Schools love, and I say schools, that's pretty much every college, and especially the private schools, love first-generation college attenders and children of immigrants, basically students who have had to struggle. It's not that there's more to it than that, but I'll talk about that. It really has to do with the essay. And also the recommendations that are written, because that's where that information gets revealed. Most applications don't have a spot for, was your life tough? Were you homeless? You have to, well, we'll talk more about that. 2, there are loads of scholarship financial aid opportunities for this group. Also, there's a School on Wheels scholarship program. We'll talk about that later. 3 great essay topics about overcoming adversity. And I put that picture of, I don't know if it's Sisyphus, but somebody like that who's pushing a boulder uphill. Yeah, and here's the key right here. If done right, the personal essay or essays, because most schools require more than one, can be the difference maker in gaining acceptance. If the essay could be factual about the difficulties that a student has had to suffer, that's not enough. The essays really have to be about how that student has overcome his or her difficulties, whether they actually have or not to this point. Oftentimes it's, and I've worked as a tutor, I was a tutor at the Cal State Northridge Writing Center for 5 years, and I worked with thousands of students, many of whom were this type of student who came from disenfranchised areas of Los Angeles and went to high schools that were just, where they didn't get terribly strong educations, and they had a lot of difficulty even surviving at CSUN. So I've heard a lot of the stories of struggle, and they have to be, the essays have to be molded into success stories. This is what happened to me. This is how I overcame my obstacles, and this is what I'm going to do with my newfound knowledge and experience. All right, another quiz. Let's see if we get 100% this time.
I missed that. Hold on, let me.
Oh.
One second.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and.
Well, so the quiz is, when is the best time to begin talking to students about college? And the options are A, senior year, B, junior year, and C, as early as grammar/middle school.
All right, well, we'll just take it in the formal poll. It's not going through, but.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, well, I think most people start talking about junior year.
Yeah, traditionally, and we're not going back too far, just 5 or 6 years ago, junior year was the right answer for this. Well, not the right answer, but probably the most accepted answer for this quiz. But now in this ultra competitive environment, C is the best answer. I taught through Valley College English, and I taught on the campus of Francis Polytech, which is in Sun Valley, which is a very large LA Unified High School. And what Polytech had done was to give their students an advantage. They brought Valley College to the campus to teach not a lot of courses. There were English, sociology, psychology, a couple of math courses. But what their hope was that their students would gain an advantage in the college admissions process by having taken college courses while still in high school, and it worked. That's kind of what students who are really excited about attending a good four-year college have to do. They have to go the extra mile. Now, I had a girl named Denise who came from a very, I mean, she lived at home with a single mother, and it was a struggle for her, but she was a very, very strong student. Took 2 classes with me. By the time she was applying to college, she had already taken 6 or 7 Valley College classes, and now she's a junior at Harvard. And I spoke to her recently. Well, we chatted on Facebook, and I said, do you think that taking those courses made you more competitive, and that was the reason you got into Harvard? And she said, absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, if you're talking to students junior year, it's I don't want to say it's too late. It's too late. But if a student hasn't done any of those things on that list that we went through, hasn't taken the most challenging courses, hasn't been involved in extracurricular activities, hasn't gone the extra mile, it may be too late to get into that student's first choice school if that student was already thinking about going to a competitive school.
I'm going to ask one of the questions we had from Melinda. She said, how should I have an honest conversation with my student about the reality of being accepted into a four-year school without discouraging them? So I'm assuming, I'm not sure, Melinda, if you mean like that your student maybe is having some difficulties and doesn't have good grades right now, and but they're kind of set, they're going to go to UCLA, or they think, you know, I'm going to go to UCLA. And that, I'm sure that happens not just with our students, but lots of students. So do you have any advice on how you would kind of approach that with them? Yeah,
and we're going to be getting into that in within a couple of slides. What is the other option? And the other option is actually a great option. And it involves the community colleges, and I'm going to talk more about that, and hopefully that will answer Melinda's question. Mm-hmm. All right. So if you're working with students now that are grammar age, middle school age, here's some of the things you can do as a tutor. Number one, develop good learning and study habits. If they're working with the tutor, you know, they're already starting to get that advantage, and that's great. 2, that sounds, you know, pretty unspectacular, but read books. I taught English, and I have to tell you that it just became very disheartening for me to each year come back to school, and our students are always assigned summer reading. It's just one book, or they have to read one book over the summer. And with each passing year, fewer and fewer students read that summer reading. And so it was hard to talk about anything the first week or two of school. And the last year I taught, and it's part of the reason I stopped teaching, was I had junior boys, 26 students, and one boy had read Huckleberry Finn over the summer. One claimed to have read Huckleberry Finn over the summer. I know it's not an easy book, but that was what the curriculum demanded, and it was disheartening. If we encourage kids to read books earlier, or to read anything, the newspaper, then they're going to be more likely to not be turned off by reading. Because I'll tell you, one of the supplemental essays that a lot of the better colleges ask is, what's the last book you read? And talk about it. Yeah. So 3, write anything, poems, stories, anything at all. It's going to help them. And then, you know, I have 2 number 3s there. I didn't teach math. I was an English teacher. Think about what interests you, and I mean the student. You know, if you ask any young person, what are you going to be when you grow up? You know, they have ideas, and it's good to start to think about those now. Say, well, how are you going to reach that goal of being an astronaut or a police officer? How are you going to do that? All right. early high school age, 9th and 10th grade. Now, one very discouraging statistic in the state of California public school system is that the ratio of counselors to students is about 500 to 1. So not every school is like that, but as you might imagine in the city of Los Angeles and the bigger cities like Glendale, you know, they're going to be closer to those numbers. And so college counselors may be very, very good college counselors, but they cannot possibly deal with that many students. They just can't. I was very, very lucky where I was. I had a class of 56. You know, I was able to give one-on-one attention. And about 75% of the students were interested in going to a four-year college. So I didn't have a lot of students to work with. But my work days were full from beginning to end with just those few students. So if there is a college counselor at their school, they're going to get the help if they volunteer to go and say, I would like to meet with you, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, to talk about college. Because, you know, I think most students get the chance to meet their college counselor at least once, but it's going to be the ones who knock on the door and want the help that are going to get that what little time that they have. So the second part of this, check out the UC and the CSU minimum requirements for applying. You can't even apply to a UC or a Cal State if you haven't taken the minimum requirements. So 4 years of English, a couple years of math. You know, the specifics are on the website of every UC and Cal State school online.
I think we have I think we have that linked off of our tutor center.
Oh, okay.
For resources. Great.
Yeah, because what we want to avoid is having students who are saying, hey, I'm going to graduate in a week and I'm going to apply to, you know, Cal State Northridge, and they're missing 3 or 4 courses. They're not even going to be allowed to apply. That's why it's good to get to them in 9th and 10th grade. And then they can start participating in a sport or club, whatever they're interested in, because as I was saying before, schools want to see a long-term commitment to whatever activity, extracurricular activity or volunteer service a student's involved in. So better to start early. Right, now, junior year, the traditional starting point. Prep for the SAT or the ACT. Now, there are fee waivers if money is an issue. They're very, very easy to get. Like students at my school who were scholarship students, mind you, but, you know, whose parents still were able to send them to a school that costs $30,000 a year, were able to get these fee waivers very easily. Start investigating colleges online. That every single school has a website. Every single school has a website, and they're mostly user-friendly. I've been on many of them, and whatever questions a student has, you know, it can be found on a website. And I know that the bus program does this. Try to visit some local campuses. Natasha was saying that some students just went to Pepperdine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have a UCLA college tour coming up on May 18th. And so if you've been tutoring your student for at least 3 months, you can then you can do the field trip with the student, or you could just tell them about it with and see if they have a parent that could bring them or somebody else. That's fine too. Just the details are on our website on the College Month page.
Right, and you know there are several schools, and I didn't list all the schools in LA. There are a few more. Okay, senior year. Now I say senior year, and I include the summer before senior year because that's when students should begin writing their essay. You know, most don't, of course, but that's a good time to start. Because any student that thinks that he or she is going to turn in the first draft of their personal essay and succeed with that, it's not going to happen. And those of us who we can help students with these essays. They also need to ask their teachers early on for a letter of recommendation. Nothing teachers hate worse than being asked the night before or a week before. Oftentimes the answer is no, and then a student is, you know, out of luck. And then apply on time. The UCs and the CSUs have a very, very early deadline. I think this year for the UCs it was, I want to say October 30th, October 31st, right around that time. And the applications don't even open until October 1st. They open them for a window of about a month. And this is the whole system. For those of you who don't know, when you apply to the University of California system, you just check the schools that you want to apply to, and it's the same application. However, it is a self-service application. Your high schools, the students don't have their schools send their transcripts. They have to self-report. So they need all those transcripts, and if a student, I know that some of the students that we work with maybe have attended 3 or 4 different schools or more, they need to get all that information together and have it ready to go on October 1st when those applications open. And of course, these, especially the Cal State schools, these are the schools that students have the best chance of getting into, also because they're California residents. I mean, the California residents get first priority at the UCs and the Cal States. All right. 12th grade continued. So generally, students apply to 3 to 5 schools. And same thing as with the SAT fee waivers, virtually every school offers a waiver of the application fee. Some of these application fees now can be, $80 to $100. So if a student can apply to, with very little effort by simply just having a letter written to 3 or 5 schools for free, what does the student have to lose, right? And then, of course, the all-important financial aid options. There are countless grants and scholarships for students who are disadvantaged economically and whatever other way. Countless. It's just a matter of Googling, and hundreds of options will open up. Loans, of course, is another option. Nobody likes to have to take out a student loan, but it is an option. All right. Now, this will speak to Melinda's question, I hope, and maybe some of others of you are thinking the same thing. What if a 4-year college isn't part of my game plan, at least for now? Now, I'm going to talk about the community college as an option to answer this question and to answer the question about the student who thinks that he's going to go to UCLA but doesn't have the transcript and doesn't have the course selection. Well, probably the greatest thing about attending for 2 years or thereabouts a community college in California is that when a student applies to transfer to that dream school, the schools will not look at their high school resume and transcript. They're only going to look at what work they did at Santa Monica College or Valley College or Pierce, whatever it is. So it's a fresh start. And that should be good news for any student who's struggling. I also mentioned dirt cheap. Now, 46 times, and pretty much every class is a 3-unit class, so that's 46 times 3 plus some fees. Financial aid is available to community college students as well. Every community college has a financial aid office. It's not that difficult for students to get fees waived and to get financial aid. Again, I'll go back to what I said about what Pauley High School did by bringing Valley College onto the campus. Great way to earn credits while still in high school. Not only will that help a student get into a more selective school, but then the student only has to spend maybe 3.5 or 3 years at school because he or she's already taken some community college classes over the summer or at night or online. Every school is expanding their online options. And I know that Valley College and SMC and all the local community colleges have many courses available online. Okay. Now for those students who, even with the encouragement, are set on finding a job that doesn't require any type of college degree, this is also, the community college system is also where those students will find those options. Vocational training for nurses, firefighters, dental assistants. The CCs have, depending on the CC, because some don't have as many options as other ones depending on the community. And I just listed some of the local community colleges. This is probably not even half. There are many other ones. There's one in San Pedro, I think LA Harbor College, one out in Santa Clarita, College of the Canyons. I taught there for 4 years, all over the place. All right. So to wrap up, encourage. That's probably the best thing that we can do, just to encourage students that these dreams are realizable with the right effort and game plan. Even if they've been told that they can't go to college because their parents can't afford it, or it's not going to matter, there aren't any jobs available, we need to encourage them that they need to become as educated as they can so that they have more options available to them. And so here's some of the details of the School on Wheels scholarship. The student has to have been tutored for at least 3 months, and the awards are up to $1,000. And there's some more details.
Yeah, so we offer them. They're not just for college, but since we're talking about college now, we can mention them. They're for programs for students in K through 12, any educational opportunities that they normally would be able to afford, but will help them, fill in the gaps and provide an experience for them. But we do have students who are applying who are going to college, and they could have been a student in our program years ago. But if they're applying for college, they can apply for this scholarship, even if they're not homeless anymore. And it can be for community college, it can be for a trade school, it can be for a 4-year college, and the amount just depends on where they're going and their status on there. So we just, all the information is on our website. It's pretty simple. It's a lot of recommendation and a little essay. And then, we do hear about other scholarship opportunities. We have one that we're giving to foster students through one of our supporters. She has a couple scholarships available. She just raises the funds on her own. And there is a specific scholarship for homeless students. I think it's called La Tendre, but if you, I can give you more information on that, but that's always available each year. But like Garrett said, there's scholarships for a lot of different things, and not just homelessness. There's tons. Like we were talking about at the Pepperdine tour, there's a scholarship for being left-handed. So the students found that really interesting. So just keep your mind open, and there's FastWeb is a great scholarship site if you're looking specifically on there. I think and the college counselors at the schools, the high schools, can definitely locate information.
Right. Again, the college counselors are overworked, but they like I always told the students, especially when I taught at the college level, if you just make the slightest effort to get to know me, stop by my office once, I'm going to remember you, and I'm going to want to help you, and that's how most college counselors feel. If a student puts in the extra effort, just knocks on the door, and they'll be guided.
I'm just going to ask a difficult question. I should have prepared you for it, but I just want to know your thoughts on it. We, Garrett and I both actually tutored at one of the group homes for boys on probation, and a lot of them didn't have very good educational backgrounds and were missing a lot of credits. So it seems kind of frustrating as a tutor, like why even talk about college? And you kind of covered a little bit of that, but do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I worked with a couple of boys who were in this same situation. The community college system in California, specifically LA Community College System in Santa Monica, which is its own branch, they have now had to incorporate several, in pretty much every discipline, several, I hate to use the word remedial, but developmental courses to address this very issue. Again, students get a fresh start, but they may have to take 5 or 6 or more courses that aren't going to count for credit, that are just going to help prepare them to take the most basic level courses. So whatever remedial issues that our students have, they can be addressed at the community college level. It's just going to require them to take, I think, so freshman comp, right? I think freshman English 101. Well, pretty much every school has 2 or 3 sections below that, just to build students up to where they can be comfortable in that class. And that's because those students, for some reason, didn't get what they needed at the high school level as far as skills, basic skills. So again, it's just a matter of spending a little bit more time. Maybe it takes 3 years for them before they can transfer, if that's what their goal is. And some of those courses aren't going to count, but there is that opportunity. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was there something else in your question? I feel like it was a two-part question.
No, mostly it's just about how how not to be discouraged as a tutor, I guess, working with
right.
students.
Well, oh yeah, right. Well, so what I wanted to talk about was, and having done it myself at CSUN, every school, community college also has very extensive writing and math and other tutoring labs. And the vast majority of the teachers are encourage their students to use those services, and I always did. The thing about the community college system is that the classes tend to be a little over enrolled. So in a freshman comp class, I might have 35 students, and that's a lot of students. Maybe 15 of those students were struggling a lot with English, even if they've taken the developmental courses. And I would just tell the students, go to the writing center. Go to the writing center with each essay, and I'll give you extra credit. You'll be a stronger writer, and so they get that advantage. And math or whatever it is, there are subject area tutors pretty much in every subject at every community college, and the vast majority of those tutors are peer tutors. So there's students as well who happen to be strong math students. So they're school on wheels tutors in training, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very lucky that we live in the state that we live in. For many reasons, and this community college system is really remarkable.
We also had a question about the logistics of getting transcripts, like of helping a student, or if you want to look at the transcripts with a student. Do you know the process of that, and is it difficult for our tutors?
Well, I think it's the law that only a student or student's parents can request a transcript from the school. But I don't think it's.
Can the student
do
it themselves?
Oh, a student can do it. Yes,
okay.
A student can. I don't know if we tutors can. There are some legal issues with that.
But
Privacy issues, but yeah, students can are entitled to have a copy of their transcript.
okay.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any reason why they can't get one. And again, I know because I worked with a couple of students who had very patchwork transcripts from several different schools, and it's tough to evaluate those sometimes. And beyond encouraging students, sometimes we might need to encourage students to go the community college route instead of trying to jump right into a 4-year college where they're just not going to be prepared. Sometimes that's a hard conversation to have. We have to be careful how we phrase that to a student. Anyways, any other questions?
There's a question on. I'm not sure we'll be able to answer it all tonight, but if you could provide any more details about encouraging students to develop good learning and study habits. So just, do you have any suggestions on that?
Yeah, what I have found that has worked for me in the past is to use personal experience. Say, this is what I do. This is what I did, and let me show you how I do an outline for an essay, or let me show you how I make flashcards for my math courses. because then there's a personal attachment, and I think also that students say, oh wow, okay, this is what my tutor had to do. Maybe that's going to work for me. Hopefully that answers that question. And then of course you can always get supplemental information about fostering time management skills and study skills online. Just Google what you're looking for, and there are many free resources, educational resources online that address these issues of bettering one's study skills. And exercises, lots of online exercises that are fun. A lot of times there are fun game/learning exercises that you can find online that will help students with that.
There was another question. It says, hi, I'm tutoring math to a high school student who's in his 12th grade and wants to go to Cypress College for studying criminal justice. He said he also has Cal State Fullerton as an option. How should I help in comparing for college besides tutoring? Maybe we can talk about finding a fit.
Yeah, I would ask that student if he or she has checked in with the college counselor at the school that he's attending. It may be that hasn't happened yet, because the college counselors are the front line. They have the transcripts, and they can look and make a very quick assessment. Say, you know what, Cal State Fullerton is not going to work for you because you didn't take 3 years of math, or you didn't take 2 years of the lab science. So it may be that Cypress College is going to be the best option or the better option for that student right now. That really depends on the transcript. That's what it comes down to. What's the minimum requirements that the CSUs are looking for? Also, yeah, so that student's going to have to wait until the fall to apply.
Yeah. It said he had Cal State as an option, Cal State Fullerton as an option. So I'm not sure if he already was accepted.
Well, yeah, okay, great. If that student's already been accepted, then well, criminal justice. Yeah, I don't know specifically if Cal State Fullerton has that major. It may not, but that is certainly a major that most community colleges offer.
Any other questions, or we have a great resource here, Garrett?
Yes, and I'm happy to hear from any of you. If you have specific questions, you can email me.
I can send it out.
Yeah,
I'll send it a follow-up.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions I can for you at any time.
Yeah, the process is definitely tricky. And you aren't expected as a tutor to know all the ins and outs. So any little questions you have at any time, just go ahead and ask your regional coordinator, and they can forward the question to someone if they can answer it, someone who can. There's one more question here. I have a student whose parents have issues with them going away to college. What can a student do to best communicate with their parents about their desire to go to college?
Yeah, well, that's, and I even had that issue at the private school. I had a lot of students come in and say, my parents want me to stay in LA. I don't want to. What do I do? And I would always defer to the student and say, listen, it's your life. If your parents want to call me and talk, that I'm happy to, but really you need to communicate with them. You need to say, this is what I want to do. And often it's a compromise that can be made. Okay, I'll stay, I'll go to the local community college for a year, and if I do well, will you let me go? At some point the student's going to be over 18, and it's going to be up to them anyways. But that's that's a concern that I've encountered many times. Even like I said, at the school where I was at, parents were afraid to let their kids go away to school, and kids wanted to.
We just have a question from Kim about, could you discuss a little bit more about how to explore where to look for scholarships?
Well, so Natasha gave that one, what was it?
FastWeb.
FastWeb, yeah. Really, if you just Google scholarships, financial aid, you will get all kinds of resources that pop up. There are a couple of expansive databases, and they're probably going to be the first couple of hits that you get on Google, and you'll see what the options are. They're limitless, really. Also, pretty much every high school college counseling office will have a whole stack of information about scholarship opportunities. And every college website is also going to, within their finance, if students keep hitting on, and digging deeper into financial aid, they'll see that those links are embedded in the financial aid parts of every college website.
All right, well, I don't see any more questions, so I think we can go ahead and wrap up. But I really, really appreciate you speaking to our tutors. I know it's, they really want, I know they want to encourage their students towards those options, but it's sometimes a little frustrating with how far they are behind and, where they are. And even, younger kids too, like how do you, how do you do that? So I think that gave a lot of help as far as how to start that process.
This is America. You have second, third, fourth, 100 chances. And when it comes to education, it's, I have a very good friend who's a very famous actor. And he did not learn to read until he was 30 years old. And now he reads all the time. So it's never, there's never an obstacle that can't be overcome, really, especially in this state. But again, the onus is on the student, and I know that, it's one thing to say to our students, Google this or that. They may not have a computer. They probably don't have access to a computer a lot of times, and so we may have to guide them. So I hope that what I had to say was of some value, and again, please feel free to contact me with any questions.
Right.
Happy to hear from you.
Well, thank you very much. Everybody have a good evening.